I'm ready.
Okay, all right guys, so as you know, starting this next week, we're going to do some overhead mobility and stability work for our accessory work every day that will help you get better overhead. This is Melinda, she's very nervous, so when you see her in class, tell her how great of a job she did. So what we're gonna do is, before we get going, the first thing we'll do on Monday is we'll do some screens just to kind of see what our overhead mobility and stability are like as we get started. So these are great things to do with a partner. It's actually even good to do with 3 people, so 2 people can be working together while 1 person videos. You can do it with 2 people as well, though, if you need to do it at home. Do the drills yourself and then get somebody to video you. Save the video so that in a month after we've done this every day or 4 days a week, you can kind of have something to compare to, and hopefully you will have improved a little bit overhead. So the first 2 things we're going to do are to test mobility, primarily our lat mobility. So Melinda's going to lay on the ground with her butt kind of up against the bench and her legs up on the bench. Good. So all we're doing here is she's going to lay down now flat. And so we have our legs up. You can put your legs up against the wall. You can put them up on the couch if you're at home. You can do them on a box if you're here at the gym. We're just kind of taking her legs out of the equation and get her back nice and flat on the ground. So what she's going to do here is to test again our lat mobility, which is a big part of our overhead mobility. She's going to straighten her arms out. Yes, just like this. Actually, I'm sorry, turn them like this. Now bring them overhead as far as you can. It keeps videoing. You're good. Just like that. Good. Now what I'm looking for here, come back, Melinda. Okay, so what I'm looking for here is, as she, first of all, I want her to be able to touch the backs of her hands to the ground over her head. So go one more time. Now, Melinda's got pretty good overhead mobility, and the way I can tell is, first of all, she's able to get her hands to the ground. And also when she gets her hand to the ground, her back doesn't extend super hardcore. So she's able, it's a little bit, so go back, Melinda. So you notice when she comes back down, her back gets a little bit flatter. And as she comes back overhead, go ahead, slow, you can kind of see that arch increasing a little bit. But Melinda, just from that, Melinda does not have a lat flexibility impediment for her overhead positioning. So this is we've got her on video now, and now when she do this again in a month, she'll be able to tell. Melinda's starting off really great, but maybe she's able to keep her back down a little bit more. Okay, go ahead and hop up, Melinda. Next thing we're going to do is, some of you guys have done something like this in class. We're going to do a wall angel screen. So Melinda will be back up against the wall. Her heel's about 3 inches, 2-3 inches away from the wall. Just kind of sitting up against the wall like this. So we're going to go like this. Now this is the position I want to be in. So again, what I'm testing here is my lat mobility, but also my pec mobility a little bit. A lot of times people trying to go overhead, they're impeded. They have a hard time getting their head through the window, as we say, because of pec mobility. So what I like seeing here is, Daniel, if we come over here, this from the side. Again, Melinda has a good, nice, neutral spine. Her backs of her hands, can you touch her backs of your hands to the wall? She's able to touch the backs of her hands to the wall without arching her back super hardcore off the wall. So go ahead and try to raise your hands up as high as you can. So this is pretty good. Melinda's got really good, I can tell just from this, Melinda she has great lat mobility. Does that hurt at all? No, good, perfect. Okay, good. So Melinda's good to go on the overhead part. Now what we'll do is, on the overhead mobility part, now we're going to do is test her stability. So the difference between mobility and stability just means I have the range of motion available to me in my joints. She has those in her thoracic spine and her shoulders and stuff. Now we're going to test her stability, which is, stability means ability to resist external force as I move through that range of motion. So we're going to test her strength overhead, basically. So go ahead and down all fours. We're going to do what's called the Y test and the T test. So Melinda's going to hold this hand out to the side, make a fist, and I'm going to push down for 3 seconds, and she's going to try to resist me pushing as hard as she can. 1, 2, 3. So we'll do that on both sides. 1, 2, 3. Now what Melinda's going to do is move her hand up here to like it's a Y. No, like overhead. Oh. So extend it. Yeah, just like this. So let's go right here. Same thing. 1, 2, 3. Good. Back down. 1, 2, 3. Good. Okay, hop up. So what we're testing there is scapular stability. So this is a little bit subjective. It's hard for, I don't know, depending on how hard Melinda says she was pressing up, how hard she was having to work to keep me from pressing her arm down. She'll be able to tell the difference day 1 versus day 30. So if she remembers today, if she says to me, did you have to push really hard for me to keep your heart?
I mean, moderate, I could say.
Okay, so the way we tell if somebody lacks scapular stability is if I'm able to, with one finger, push that arm down and they can't resist at all, we need to work on strengthening their scaps. Melinda is pretty good. So Melinda's issue, and I know just from having her in class, if she has difficulties overhead, her difficulties are not going to be mobility and stability, which is something we've just confirmed today. Her stuff is usually traced back to her ankle mobility, which is something else we'll work on down the road. But for now, what we've learned through these screens is Melinda's good to go on her overhead mobility and stability, and she's got a baseline so that everybody can always get better. So now she knows kind of where she is, and then she'll have something to retest against in 30 days. So just to recap, when you do your screens, we want to do the Y and the T. So pressing down for 3 seconds, resisting as hard as you can, just kind of making a mental note of how hard you have to work. And then we'll do our lat mobility test on the ground with your feet up on a box or the couch or whatever. See if you can get your arms back to the ground over your head without your back coming up too much. And then we'll do a similar thing with our wall angel test, trying to get the backs of our hands, our shoulders, and our elbows up against the wall without arching our back too hard. All right?